Whether you're picking and grinning or just picking or just grinning, grab a drink, pull up a seat. It's time for Roots Music Rambler. Turn it up.
So, we talk a lot about Jason Isbell. Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
And there's a line to one of his songs. It's like the opening line. He says, "It's none of my business, but it breaks my heart." And I kind of feel like that's how I'm feeling right now with the news that he and his wife, Amanda Shires, are splitting.
Yeah. As we record this, that news just came out a couple of days ago. And, obviously, it is none of our business, of course, but very, very sad. And so we couldn't avoid talking about it on the show, I don't think. And I don't know what and for context for the listeners out there, Francesca and I both have been through a divorce. So we're coming from places of at least understanding what they might be going through, even though certainly we don't know their personal situation or all that kind of stuff. But ever since the documentary aired, when they were recording or when he was recording reunions, there was obvious publicly acknowledged tension in the marriage. And then I think Amanda had a song where she brought that up, Fault Lines.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Where she brought that up, which actually I read later, he encouraged her to be open and transparent and go ahead and use that line and use that song. So all of that sort of led me to my first kind of reaction when I heard they were getting divorced was obviously very sad. But if any two people are in a place in their emotional evolution on this planet to be able to handle this and probably handle it as well as you can, I would think the two of them, with their history of therapy and being very open and transparent about their relationship and having open communication, which is typically what kills marriages, is not having open communication.
Right.
So there's obviously some underlying problems there that are none of our business. But if any two people are in a place in life where they're probably going to be okay, it's probably the two of them. And so I'm kind of holding on to that I hope they both come out in a good place emotionally and personally and professionally and everything else. But yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, it certainly seems that way, that they are well equipped to handle what's going to come next. But again, we don't know all the details and we don't need to know, nor should they be made available. So, of course, being a mom and a mom who's been through a divorce, as you said, I am concerned about their daughter, Mercy. She's like 8, I think, or 9. So that's kind of a tough age to have your parents split. And the softer side of me, I guess, or maybe not, maybe just the whatever, seeing Jason and Amanda's relationship from the beginning, or close to the beginning, and knowing that he has written songs for her, like Cover Me Up, it just, the romantics in all of us, right? It just gives us hope. So to know that didn't last and it didn't work out is very sad.
Yeah, it is. And it's tough, too, when you think about, Amanda was really the one who pulled him out of his alcohol abuse and addiction and basically drew a line in the sand and said, you got to get clean or this isn't going to work.
Right.
And so he owes her a lot. And I'm sure she owes him a lot, too.
Sure.
But yeah, I guess I don't like to dive into that whole sort of TMZ celebrity gawking culture, but it's kind of what we do. We follow our favorite artists, on this show and in our personal lives. We like knowing what's going on with them. So yeah, it sucks. And my heart goes out to both of them, certainly, and certainly to Mercy. I was a child of divorce. When I got divorced, my kids were 10 and 7. It's not an easy time for children, and going through divorce as a child is something you don't understand until years later when you have your own therapist and go through all that kind of stuff. So, but I hope that the model that they have created in their home for being open and authentic with one another and openly communicating the way they have, or the way they at least appear to have done, I hope that has been a healthy environment for Mercy to learn from and hopefully come out of this as unscathed as possible. It's never good. It's never easy. You never come out of it unscathed at all. But hopefully the wounds won't be as deep and won't be as bad as some people's have been. So good luck to them.
Well said.
All right. Welcome to Roots Music Rambler. She's Frank.
He's Falls.
And we're rambling on through the stories behind the music we love.
And today on the show, I can't even believe this. Like, is this right? Is this real life? Okay.
It is.
SG MF and Goodman.
It's right. SG Goodman is our guest on the show. The patron saint of the dollar store is blessing us with her presence. This has been one of our, sort of early conversations on this show was, about SG Goodman, because about the time we started this show was when Rusted in the Rain from Tyler Childers came out, and Space and Time, which is SG Goodman's song, was on that album. We had talked about SG's, music and her album before, and she's been kind of an ever-present, conversation thread on Roots Music Rambler. And because she's from Kentucky, and because at least in September when we started this show, she wasn't as huge as she is now, and she continues to grow. Her stock continues to get really big. We thought, well, maybe we could get her on the show. So I immediately start emailing her publicity people. Now, as you guys know, a few months into this show, I got a tattoo on my right calf that is based on and inspired by Space and Time. And I took a picture of it, obviously, and we talked about it on the show. And I posted it on Instagram and tagged her. And she responded and was like, oh, my God, that looks so great. And so I said, man, I'd love to have you on the podcast. So we had this back and forth. And she was, wrapping up her fall tour, which I went to see her. Karen and I went to see her in Louisville here at Headliners. And then she was playing some shows with Jason Isbell. She was playing some shows with Tyler. I think she actually went out and played some shows with Sunvolt. So she was on the road with a bunch of people through the kind of the holiday season. And then she came to a break here at the end of January, beginning of February. And finally, her PR people, and she had given me some, hey, put this in the subject line of the email so that it gets to the right person so that we can do this. Like, she wanted to do the show, but you got to go through the official channels. And so we did that, and they finally said, hey, SG's on a break. Can you guys record in the next few days? And unfortunately, Francesca was unable to join me for the interview. But fortunately for all of us, I got to spend a little bit of time with SG Goodman this week. So she's on the show today.
Yes, super bummed that I could not take part in the interview. But when someone like SG Goodman says I'm available at this time, even if you're not, then, that's just the way that it's got to be. So I had a prior commitment and was not able to make it. Certainly sad about that, but still, again, very thrilled that she agreed to be on our little podcast. And it's just huge. And I respect her and admire her work so much. So it's definitely exciting.
Well, we talked about the fact that you and I are coming to see her and Tyler in Chicago, and she was very pleased to hear that we were coming. So we had I brought you up a few times, so she at least, heard your name. She knows who you are. So It'll be good. And hopefully she'll be watching this episode of the show. But I don't want this to be lost on everyone out there. The primary reason that Francesca could not make it was she's committed to her students as a teacher. And she had a commitment with them. And so she had work to do as a teacher that evening when we recorded the show. So I applaud you for that, Frank. That's good stuff.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. But the conversation, fantastic. And we're going to have her later on the show. And I'm just really pumped. We had a great conversation. And there was even a technical issue with the recording. And she came back afterwards the next day and helped me fix it. And she was just great. And so
that's great.
You guys are going to enjoy this conversation. We had a lot of fun, and I tried not to embarrass myself too much. But a couple episodes of the show in a row here, I've been fanboying all over our guests. So
seriously,
I got to reel this shit in. So.
Okay. Okay. So, also on the show, we'll do our normal Pickin the Grinnin and share our picks for the music that's making us grin. They might be new artists, might be old, but they'll sure be good. So before we kick it off, though, Jason.
Yeah, as we record this, it's a little bit later for the audience out there hearing this. It's going to be a little bit old news. We've told you before, we don't do breaking news or live stuff on this show. But the Grammys just concluded last weekend as we record this. And so it was a big, big night for some of the people we talk about on this show. So I thought it would be good for us to touch on that. Obviously, a couple of weeks ago, a couple of episodes ago, you heard our daughters on this program talking about their love for Boy Genius. Boy Genius won, I think, 3 Grammys, which was fantastic. And it turns out that the conversation we had on the last episode, about them going on hiatus was just what we thought it was. They're going off to do their solo projects. Boy Genius is actually a side project for the three of them. Right. So they're going back to doing their solo stuff because less than a week after that announcement, they were at the Grammys, all, winning awards and hugging each other. And, you can tell
crying.
There's nothing wrong with Boy Genius at all. They're all good. So it was just a professional thing that they made everybody aware of. But they had a great night. Our boy Tyler Childers didn't win any of the things that he or Silas House or any of the folks associated with In Your Love and whatnot were nominated for. But I shared this with Katie, my daughter, last night. I thought it was fantastic. Sonora May, Tyler's wife, posted a picture from the Grammys of her and Tyler. And then the second picture in the carousel was her and Tyler and Taylor Swift, who apparently crashed their table because she didn't know where to sit because they had moved the name cards. And Sonora May was like, she kept apologizing that she crashed our table. Like, you're Taylor Swift, sit here wherever you want. Right. So I just thought that was really cool. And Katie and I shared this moment of, look, like our favorite artists are like hanging out together. That's pretty neat.
Oh, and our worlds collide. It's so special.
It is. It's good.
It's so special. I did see that Facebook post by Sonora, and I was like, yes, that was great. So my only comment, I'm not only, but I guess my biggest comment about the Grammys, because I didn't even watch, was not even knowing what other videos were nominated along with Tyler and Silas House's In Your Love. I can't even imagine that there is a video out there that is better than that one. Like, I don't even care who it is. That video was so well done, and just the emotions that it stirred up for so many people, and so many people could relate. And to me, that was a masterpiece. And I don't care what you say. There's not another video in existence that could top that.
Okay, I'm scrolling through the list right now to make sure that I know what. Okay, the winner of that, and this seems kind of unfair, frankly. The winner was "I'm Only Sleeping," which is a Beatles video. So,
if you all could see my face,
I haven't seen the video, so I can't judge. But I mean, the Beatles, only half of them are still alive, and they're not producing new stuff now. So this was really more for the video director and the people that put it together. And I'm sure it's wonderful, and I'm sure that they did a great job. But it was up against that, What I Was Made For by Billie Eilish, which won a couple other Grammys and was a very, very good song and whatnot. Count Me Out by Kendrick Lamar, and Rush by Troye Sivan, who I don't even know who that is.
Oh,
what that is.
I only know about him because they made fun of him on Saturday Night Live when Boy Genius was on.
Okay.
And that's the only reason I even saw the episode, was because of Boy Genius. So he's some young, I think he's Australian kind of glam dude, and he became famous because of TikTok. So, well, I'll leave it at that.
I do have one thing that I really do want to say about the Grammys. And I thought long and hard about this, and I told my daughter that I was going to do this professionally and diplomatically, and I wasn't going to exaggerate things just to make it sound better. But I have a bit of an opinion on her queen, Taylor Swift, and what she did when she won the first of her 2 or 3 Grammys that night. She goes up for her acceptance speech. And I actually mentioned this on the last episode because Katie, in this strange world of foreshadowing, said that she thought that Taylor was going to announce the Taylor's version of Redemption from the Grammy stage if she won. And I said to her, I hope she doesn't. That would be tacky. I'll go into why I think that would be tacky here in a minute, because she didn't announce Redemption Taylor's version, but she did announce her new album is coming out on April 19th, which, by the way, weirdness, happens to be Katie's birthday. So that was, weird juju in the room for that. As soon as Taylor announced that, I literally turned to Katie and looked at her and was like, that was tacky. Now, here's why. And Taylor's been taking some grief from people because of this. And don't get me wrong, I promised Katie, this is not an exaggeration. I think the world of Taylor Swift. She's fantastic. I love her music. My daughter loves her music. All due respect. I do not think using a Grammy acceptance speech as a platform to sell something is appropriate.
Yeah.
I thought it was disrespectful to the Grammys. It was disrespectful to the audience watching at home. It was disrespectful to the other artists who were nominated or just in the room. It's not a platform for you to sell an album. It's an opportunity for you to give credit and thank the people who helped you achieve that award. You only have 60 seconds, and there's a lot of people to thank normally. Now, somewhat in her defense, she's won 13 or 14 Grammys now, 14 now, I think. So she's had the opportunity to thank everybody she needs to thank probably over and over and over again. But I just felt like commercializing that opportunity because there's a huge audience watching on television. If you're a business person, it was a great decision. But if I'm in Taylor Swift's camp as a PR person, as a business manager, whatever, I'm looking at that and saying, that's tacky. That would be disrespectful to the moment. Don't do it. And so, curious what your thoughts might be on that.
Again, I didn't watch the Grammys, so I didn't see the scene that you describe. As you were talking, though, I'm listening and I'm thinking devil's advocate here. So could it be that announcing to her fans, her very loyal, dedicated fans, that she has this new album coming out is a way of saying thank you? Like, I love you guys so much. Thank you. And because of all of your support and over the years, I have this new album coming out for you as a way to say thank you. Could that be? And again, I didn't see it, so I know tone and timing, that all comes into play as well.
It's a valid point. I'll acknowledge that. I still think it's tacky just because it is an obvious commercial opportunity. Whether or not the intention is to be commercial and sell more records, it's the wrong place, It's like standing up at somebody's funeral and announcing that you're going to have a birthday party next week. It's just not the right place to do it, in my opinion. Again, I don't have anything against Taylor Swift. I'm sure the album's going to be fantastic. I hope everybody goes out and buys it who likes Taylor Swift. I just felt like that was an inappropriate place to do that. And I would say that about any performer, any award show. That's not the time. That's just not the time. And I think the world of social media is a really good example of that. If you go into the social media world on whether it's Facebook or TikTok or wherever, and you are invested in being in the community and you're trying to interact with the community and join the conversation, as it were, but you walk in and suddenly start selling your crap, and the people say, get the hell out of here. We don't like you, right? And I felt like it felt the same to me.
Okay, I can appreciate it.
So anyway, I don't want to talk about Taylor Swift anymore because, number one, I'm out of bourbon and I got to go refill, and we got to take a quick break for that. But in a minute, when we come back, it's time for the worship service. The patron saint of the dollar store herself joins us. Our conversation with S.G. Goodman is up next. This is Roots Music Rambler. Hey, Ramblers, I have experienced a revolution in sound in my house, and you can too. The revolution is driven by Sonos. The Sonos wireless music system lets you play any song in any room, control it all with the Sonos app on your phone or tablet. Sonos has all the connections to give you millions of songs and stations, including connecting to your iTunes, your Spotify, Pandora, and more. Get a wireless Sonos player and hear the sound quality difference. Then get one for all the rooms in your house where you listen, but might be out of reach of the stereo or Bluetooth speaker you normally use. So I've got one in my bedroom and bathroom for when I get ready in the morning. I've got one in the kitchen and living room for when I'm hanging out with friends. And then down here in the office den for when I'm working or setting up for another episode of the show. I happen to like the Sonos Move, which is one of the speaker models. I can put it out on my patio for cookouts. It's a weather-resistant design, has an 11-hour battery life, so I don't need to plug it in out there when I have people over for cookouts or tailgates or whatever. And I can play music on all or just a few of the speakers, so I never lose my jams going from room to room. Try the Move and hear the difference, then hook up all the rooms in your house for an excellent listening experience while you move around cleaning or dancing or whatever you do in the privacy of your own home. Listen to Roots Music Rambler on it, for God's sakes. It makes me sound even more handsome. Go to rootsmusic.link/Sonos, S-O-N-O-S, rootsmusic.link/Sonos, Sonos. That'll take you right to the Sonos Move speaker page to purchase. I highly recommend it, and you'll love how much better your music and podcasts sound. Go to rootsmusic.link/Sonos. That's rootsmusic.link/Sonos. Welcome back to Roots Music Rambler. It's that time. It's time to bow down and worship at the altar of the patron saint of the dollar store. S.G. Goodman is with us. She joined us this last week, had a great time catching up with her, and really happy to share this conversation with you now. We pick it up right after I told her that I saw the final stop of her fall tour here in Louisville. Here's our conversation with S.G. Goodman.
Good deal. Yeah, that was a great show. It felt good to end things there, and pleasantly surprised by the room full of people. And I mean, nothing wrong with playing in Kentucky.
Well, that's true. Yeah, we had a blast. My girlfriend and I went, and that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed the outfits that evening too. That was fun. Was that just a tour ending thing?
Yeah, well, my nuns. Well, I didn't want it to be a tour ending thing. We did it on our first night of tour, but not everybody wanted to participate every single night, which is fair. You know, I always told them it was harder on me than it was on them, but at the same time, I just had to wear a collar, and I normally always wear a suit, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, the first night they came out in those outfits, I just could barely keep it together myself. So yeah,
yeah, they were pretty funny. I think your drummer ditched his after the first cut, maybe, or so. But the rest, he was
the problematic one. He almost wouldn't participate to begin with, and I was like, at least wear the hat, at least wear the hat. And Steven doesn't like to play dress up very often.
Well, the intention was well received. I thought it was fantastic. So the last, year, well, probably a couple years, but the last year especially has been a real, I think, probably whirlwind for you. I know you're on a brief break right now, but has the success of the last year had time to sink in yet, or have you just been touring and not paying attention to it?
Well, I would say I'm feeling it. That's why I'm taking such a long break for myself. I mean, I'm not really going back on the road until early April. I haven't had this much of a break in 3 years, so last year was a whirlwind, but it didn't. So was the year before. And I guess I got to do a lot of things that are on a lot of people's bucket list this year, and really was excited to do it. But the reality is, a lot of people don't talk about it. I was so worn down by the end of this year and at that show at Headliners that, I'm not sure if anything's sunk in yet. I'm still figuring out how to try to be at home, So
I bet. Well, just for the people listening so that they get a full grasp of it, you went from a new album to Americana Emerging Artist of the Year to having Tyler Childers choose Space and Time to cover in the midst of a meteoric rise for him. Then he asks you to sing with him at the Grand Ole Opry and then open for him on several stops on his tour. My co-host Francesca and I are coming to see you and him at the United Center in Chicago, where she lives. So now you're going to be playing arenas. I mean, did you see all this coming at all? Was there ever a moment where you were like, uh-oh, things are about to get crazy?
I mean, I never imagined that Tyler would ask me. All that happened just out of the blue, to cover Space and Time. I wasn't the one who put together me going out on tour with him or anything like that. And I've just been pleased to, become buds and find somebody else in this industry that's, good-hearted and just good people. And I don't mind tagging along with him. It's been good, and I've enjoyed all those shows. But no, I guess the short answer is no. I couldn't have imagined that a lot of the things happened this year. I did my Opry debut and, also got to go out on the road with Jason Isbell a bunch this year and played a lot of good festivals, kind of landmark festivals. Did some stuff at Newport again, and played Winnipeg Folk Fest, which is a really big deal in Canada. That was my first Canadian festival, which are a lot different in ways than American festivals. But we headlined 2 tours, well, 2 major tours this year. I guess we did 3, really. But, yeah, I barely see straight.
Well, I'm curious, what's the difference between the festivals in Canada and the U.S. other than it's probably colder?
Well, they do what they call, what are those called? Workshops.
Okay.
So I'll tell you, when you're kind of going up the ranks as a musician, a lot of times at festivals, you know you're doing real good when you only have 1 slot. Okay? Like an American festival is like, I'm at the point now where when I get an offer for a festival, they're like, well, we want you to play at this time and then again at like midnight 1. I don't hardly ever do shows past 11 p.m. Yeah. I refuse. I'm not a late night person and I don't enjoy it. And there's not really an amount of money that would get me to do that, you know, and it's hard. And there's a lot of festivals that want to do that. So at American festivals, smaller acts a lot of times have to play multiple sets for the same amount of money, just one lump sum, you know. Well, in Canada, that's just a given. These workshops are more intimate little sets that you go and say, like this at Winnipeg, I played like a songwriters round with the Dia Victoria and a few others, and you do kind of, it's just built in, like you're going to play maybe 3 sets in one day.
Wow.
Not all of those are full band. So
right.
One would be like me, acoustic or something. But what it does is they kind of have these little camps set up where the artists will come and do these workshops so that their audience can have a more intimate experience at the festival and just instead of going from this stage to the next. So I think from an audience perspective, it's amazing. And I enjoyed it too. It gave me a different experience. But yeah, that's the difference.
That's interesting. Okay. Workshops. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, hopefully, it won't be long before you're getting invited to the Canadian festivals and they're just like, nah, you're just doing the one big spot in the evening and you're done. You don't have to do all that stuff anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, you kind of started out playing shows in Murray, I believe, Murray, Kentucky, and, other places that were, coffee shop settings and things like that. Now you're playing in big arenas. You're doing the big festivals. For you as a performer, do you feel any more pressure? I mean, I know there's pressure just to perform in front of 2 people, but does it change with the venue and the scope of what you're doing as to how you handle the expectations and maybe the nerves?
It's strange. I played in front of more people this year than I ever have. Red Rocks, what was 11,000 people, I think, sold out every night. That's a pretty good crowd. And this year, like you said, with Tyler, I mean, some of those arenas, they're going to have 25,000. But I'll tell you, for me, yes, playing Red Rocks was a big deal. But I can see more people in a room in a 100-cap club than I can at a stage that big. You can't see really too many people there unless the lights are done a certain way. So you're just up there with your boys, And there's another thing that's a reality about being an opener in a setting. I'm sure I sold some tickets to those shows, but Tyler Childers sold those tickets. So my goal as a performer on those nights is to have, a decent amount of those people remember who I am. So that's kind of my goal, of go up there and show your stuff. So I would say I'm more nervous from a performing perspective at a place like Headliners, where it's my headline show, where really, if I go up there and put on a kind of a lackluster show in front of people who came to see me, that's going to really harm me. Honestly, if I messed up for 30 minutes in front of a Tyler Childers crowd, it probably wouldn't hurt me or him.
Yeah. That's a good point.
So it's kind of, I mean, I might not get invited back, but
True.
But the reality is kind of that. So I I do have nerves, but not for the reasons that you might assume. It's not really like the people. It's just different circumstances.
That's fair. I guess I'm going to find out the answer to this in June, but I'll ask now. When you're opening for Tyler, who gets to do Space and Time?
Well, kind of pissed at that boy. I have never heard him do Space and Time without me on stage.
Oh.
When we were at the Opry together and I sang it with him and my friend Aaron Ray, that was the first time I had ever seen him perform it. So normally he asked me to perform it. And I always, out of courtesy, ask him, would you like, I always ask his tour manager to go see what the deal is for tonight. But yeah, he's never played that song in front of me. I just see it on TikTok and YouTube like everybody else. So, yeah.
Well,
I'd love to see him perform it.
Well, I first heard the song on your album, obviously, which came first. But I heard the song. My girlfriend introduced me to you. So thank you, Karen, for that. And
Thank you, Karen.
And I listened to the album and I loved it. And Space and Time just like grabbed me. I was like, oh man, that's like the perfect sentiment. That's what I want to tell my kids. That's what I want to tell, Karen and my mom and my dad and the people that I love. The sentiment of that song hit me, and it hit me hard enough that people who are listening to this show know that I have a Space and Time tattoo on my leg, which you know too. And I didn't get the tattoo to get you on the show. But yeah, it's a pretty good.
I hope not. I'd have done it anyway.
But so I heard your version first, and I loved the song, and then I heard Tyler do it, and I was like, "Wow, I can't." I'm flipping a coin as to which one I like best, and I don't know that I can decide that because they're both. I mean, he's outstanding, an outstanding singer. He's got a great voice. You're an outstanding singer. You've got a great voice. It's obviously a magnificent song, but I would think that in your shoes, it's kind of the same thing. It's like, I'm glad he's doing something with the song, which, maybe you aren't able to do.
No, I definitely like my version better than Tyler's.
Okay. All right. Fine.
No, no, you're wrong about that.
How did that come about? Did he approach you about the song? How did the him using it come about?
Yeah, he just wrote me. He just wrote me and said, me and the boys have been having fun playing Space and Time. Do you mind if we play it out? Or he said if we cover it.
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't a lot more specific than that when we had a good back and forth and stuff, but he never really got into specifics of what that meant. So I just thought it was kind of strange of him to ask if he could go and play my song live, because most time, I'll play anybody if I want to. There's no rules or legalities about playing a song live. And I didn't know that he had cut the song until I was playing Luck Reunion in Texas at Willie's Ranch. And Tyler's manager came up to me and he said, you want to go hear something? And I said, okay. And so me and my manager and Tyler's manager, we went to my van and, there it was.
Wow.
It wasn't mixed or mastered yet, but I heard it. I had to keep my lips tight on that one for, I guess, about a year.
Wow.
I was sworn to secrecy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, putting out an album takes a long time.
Sure.
So I knew that was happening. When I saw Tyler cover that song for the Hill in Appalachia, which went kind of viral, I had already known that he was going to cover that song at that point. I'm pretty sure if I'm getting, because Luck Reunion, that would have been like March, early April. So that would have made sense because I woke up to that video. Somebody had sent it to me and I was on tour with Sunbolt.
Oh, nice. We like Sunbolt.
No, I love Sunbolt. They're great. They're fun too. And, I had a good time with those boys. But yeah, me and my bandmate Mikey were in a little slum motel somewhere on the East Coast. There's Tyler Childers singing my song.
Nice.
But
That's gotta be an interesting. I think you said at the concert in Louisville, you said, I guess he did an okay job with it, but it's got to be kind of cool to, finally hear it on an album and go, wow, okay, that's my song.
Oh yeah. No, I just pick at him. I'm one of those people who, if I tell you that I love you, I might not get more into it than that, but you should believe it. But I like to pick at him a little bit,
Yeah.
But no, I'm completely honored. I'll say I'm most honored. A lot of people could have covered that song. I do stand by, and I think that song is a good song. But a songwriter chose to cover my song. Not an artist that typically shops around for songs, and, not an artist whose career was built on singing other people's songs. Howard Childers is a great songwriter and chose to cover my song. So I would say, for me, I don't think people understand or really fully think about it that way. It makes it a much bigger deal for me as like a fellow songwriter to know, I go around and always say, for many reasons, he didn't have to,
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's quite the honor. I never really thought about it that way, but I'm glad you pointed that out. That's good stuff. So you're not unfamiliar with working with big names. Your first album was produced by Jim James, of course. And I'm curious if all the, I guess, climbing the ladder, as it were, was a slow, methodical thing for you, or did it seem to kind of come a million miles an hour, which is kind of what it seems like from the outside looking in?
No, I wouldn't say anything felt like. I think there have been moments that have felt like they have been coming at a million miles per hour. This year was definitely one of those. I mean, I will say in a non-egotistical way, it's just the reality. There are not many artists my size, and I say that because there are definitely artists that play more shows in a year than I do. But I'm running around in a van. And we kept the road really hot for the last 3 years. But this year, just to show you, like, my schedule, I went on tour with Margot Price. And this was after, I'm trying to get my facts straight here, either before, I can't remember if I played the Opry before Red Rocks or after. I don't know if that would ring a bell for you. But anyway, let's just say I was so exhausted that Margot let me ride her bus a couple of days because we both had to be back at the Opry, and we were chasing her bus in my van, and I was getting sick. So I had the Opry, and then I feel like we played Red Rocks after that. Okay. But I had just gotten off of a really long stretch with both Jason Isbell and Tyler for over a month, and then straight into Margot, and it was just a total whirlwind. But as far as things going fast in the industry, like I said, there were moments, but when it comes to Jim James, for instance, this is a funny story.
Okay.
That all started because I was asked, all right, let me just paint you how slow this is. Do you know the Kentucky artist Daniel Martin Moore?
I know the name, yes.
Okay, well, Daniel Martin Moore, I believe, came through Murray, Kentucky. He was on Sub Pop, had done a lot of stuff with like Joan Shelley, different ones. A friend of mine told me I should go see Daniel Martin Moore. He was playing here in Murray, and it was a small crowd, and I asked Daniel if he wanted to go and grab dinner with me, because I was working on a self-released album at the time and wanted to pick his brain about business. And so I invited him. We had dinner together. I think that would have been in 2016. So in 2017 or 18, Daniel writes me to be a part of, it was called the Kentucky Natural Lands Trust and Pine Mountain Settlement School split, where a bunch of Kentucky artists, Silas House, a bunch of them, we all got together. It was there, like a year or so later, maybe 2 years, that I heard that Jim James was going to be on that album too. But Jim wasn't on the mountain with us, but I didn't realize that Daniel and most everybody there knew Jim. And so I drove back from the mountain and called my drummer, and I was like, I'm going to make an album. I'm going to make some demos, and I'm going to give them to Jim James. All right. So that would have been in the fall or something. I made these demos starting that next February or March. In October of 2018, I finally got the nerve to send Daniel an email with my demos and asked if he would send those to Jim James. I got a wild hair and I moved. I have a house here in Murray, and I moved to Nashville, and I lived there for 6.5 months. And when I arrived, that was my first year owning a house, and I didn't escrow in my property taxes, and I was flat broke. And I didn't have a job back in Murray, so I stayed in Nashville and got a job at a restaurant to pay my bills back here.
Wow.
So during that time, that email had been sent. And I remember going out to a party. This was like end of December that year with who is now my publicist. And he's British, and he was like, darling, if Jim James doesn't write you back by Monday, you need to go ahead and make the album. Anyway, I was sitting outside of Moss Tacos in Nashville, Tennessee on my break, and I looked at my phone, and Daniel Martin Moore said he was looping me into an email with Jim.
Wow. That's cool.
But it took many, many years. And you know, my current manager, Aaron Ray, who I told you, it was so full circle at the Opry. Aaron, who's an amazing songwriter and singer, I met her in probably 2015 or 16, and she's the one who, in 2018, sent my demos that I had made for Jim James to my manager. And that came from a connection years before then.
Wow.
You know? So you can't ever tell how these things are going to come about. But there are aspects that have been very, very slow and aspects that have been very fast. And a lot of people, they, you know, come up to me and they're like, how do you do it? And I said, I don't know any better than anybody else, other than if you're not doing it, then you're definitely not going to do it. Yeah. That's all I can say. You know?
Yeah. So, gotta play the game if you want to win, right?
That's right. Yep.
We'll have more of our interview with the patron saint of the dollar store, S.G. Goodman, after a short break. This is Roots Music Rambler. Hey, gang, I was not a flannel guy until I found Muskox flannels. Now, I don't want to wear anything else. Well, I mean, pants, you know, but you know what I mean. Anyway, so Muskox is a premium flannel shirt that comes in various colors and styles, but also all season or heavy. So they have different weights and thicknesses. They even have sizes that fit big boys like me. Now, Frank, I hear the ladies like the flannel look. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Yeah, there we go. Nice. So one Muskox flannels customer actually said they are buttery soft, but built like a tank. I resemble that remark, especially when I'm wearing my Muskox flannels. They also, by the way, give $10 of every $100 order to support wildlife conservation. So you're doing some good for the earth and the animals on it with every purchase. Visit gomuskox.com/Rambler, browse the collection and get you some buttery soft, built like a tank premium flannels. Make sure you use the code Rambler, all caps, and get the discount on your order. That's gomuskox.com/Rambler. Use the code Rambler, buttery soft, yo. That might be my new hashtag. Welcome back to Roots Music Rambler. We are in the middle of our conversation with S.G. Goodman. Let's get back to it. So true to our show, we like to also look backwards at your roots a bit and figure out kind of what impacted you such that would make you, you know, a great singer and a great songwriter. I know you're from Hickman, Kentucky, I do believe. So you're from the far west and I'm from the far east, and everything else in Kentucky's between us, which is perfectly fine. my guess is that, and I confirmed this through reading some other articles. I know church was a big place where music came into play for you. But at what point when you were growing up did you think, oh, this is more than just something I do on Sundays? I can do this.
I don't know if that ever happened for me. I really don't know how that came about, to be honest with you. Maybe there was some sort of deep desire there, but I never looked at doing music as a real thing. I started recording. I took guitar lessons in Lone Oak. My parents would drive me up there. They went terrible. I know less about guitar even now than most people, in 7th grade.
Okay.
But what I was doing was I was writing songs. And so this is why I can't blame my guitar teacher at this point. There's been plenty of time to figure some stuff out, but I'd go in there with a song and he would doodle over it with his guitar and it would make it sound like a real song, So I would come in with my 2 or 3 chords that I knew, still the ones I write with today. And I was really encouraged by that. But what it did was it made me, because I sure wasn't a guitar player, still am not a guitar player, it made me pay attention to melody and lyrics. And that was the thing I was good at. That was the thing I could offer in my half a year of guitar lessons. And that is when I started becoming interested in recording. He approached me and wanted me to record some demos. We did, and I don't know where those are, and they are terrible. They were terrible then. But that was the first time I ever put on, like headphones to record in Herb Chapman's studio in Lone Oak, Kentucky. And
nice.
Anyway, I just got the bug and thought it was cool and, wanted to write. And I didn't know what would become of it.
Yeah. How old were you when the guitar lessons happened?
I think about 15.
It's interesting. So I would assume then that you considered yourself a songwriter before you considered yourself a singer. And when did you get that idea that, oh, okay, I've got a unique voice. I sound different than other people? Because I think that's a very distinctive thing about you as an artist.
Well, I don't think I sounded very good at first. I was so shy about performing. I would wait until my family went to bed. My bedroom had a bathroom attached, and I'd go in the bathroom and quietly sing. And what that did was, for years, up until I was probably about 20 years old, I sang really closed-lipped and didn't put a lot behind me. And I think that really developed over time as I got more comfortable performing. I mean, my bandmate Steven, we've played together for, I guess, 12 years now, something like that. And I was so shy performing when we started out in our early 20s that I would leave as soon as we were done. I mean, it was our deal. He brought the amps and the guitars, and I could leave immediately.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm not really sure. Yeah, I think it was just from doing it over and over again. And like you said, we started playing bars and stuff around this little town in western Kentucky, Paducah, up into southern Indiana and different places. And we only had one go, because when you're playing to a crowded bar, I think the way you should measure a successful night is if you can get them to be quiet for at least a minute.
That's a great point.
Yeah. So when I played this song, we played it in a lot different way. I called it Milk and Honey back then, but it's called When You Say It on Teeth Marks. We played it a lot differently, but when I would play that in bars, I could make a whole room full of frat boys shut up for a second, and
I love it.
It's about those little experiences. And I was lucky there was a record store here in Murray, Kentucky that I played a lot at and could, learn my limits on a lot of stuff. When you're young, you think it's cool to, you know, get high before you play. You know, I don't, to the best of my ability, there's, you know, no substances other than a good SSRI, you know, before I play. So.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah. Speaking of Murray, Kentucky, you know, you went to Murray State, I believe. I went to Morehead State. So again, opposite sides of the state, everything else in between us. The big difference is you have talent and I'm just a schmuck. But I didn't know that Murray, Kentucky had a kind of a hopping indie artist scene. Was that from like music majors at the university who were just looking to play their stuff, or is there something else going on there that I'm not aware of?
Well, you know, I think the scene here ebbs and flows. I think I really hit it at a very special time when a lot of the people here, there's still punk bands and there's still some folk stuff. And we further on out towards Paducah, there's bluegrass. And when I first moved to Murray, that seemed to be more popular. But in my early 20s, there was just a lot of post-punk bands that came through here. And I'm not really sure what formula happened other than the people that were present here at the time that made that. But, you know, when you're in an isolated place, little things like that tend to pop up, and they are deeply needed. So I think it was just a scene cultivated out of pure necessity for people here. And, you know, I'm not really sure. It's kind of funny because I've been on the road so much. I'm very out of the loop for what's going on in Murray right now, or in Paducah, Kentucky, which is where I kept the road between Paducah and Murray hot. And I'm pretty out of the loop, and it tore me up for a while, but the truth is I barely have time to take care of myself, you know, so I hope kids are still getting at it out there and trying to do something for music here in this little place. But yeah, like I said, I think things happen when you need it, you know?
Yeah, true. So you are on a break, and I'm curious about two things. The first thing is, when you have time, what do you listen to? We've got a segment on our show called Pickin the Grinnin, where we share our picks of people who are making us grin. And it's just our recommendations. Hey, I found this new artist this week. You should check out this album. Who does S.G. Goodman listen to when you've got time to listen to music?
Well, I'm trying to decide whether or not I want to listen to music now that I'm off the road. I know that sounds strange, but I'm actually off of social media right now. I mean, I'm technically on, my manager's doing it, but if I heard one more trending folk song on a reel, I wasn't going to be here much longer, you know? So I took a break. I'm so proud of myself. I'm a political junkie, and I haven't even listened to NPR in a while.
Oh my goodness.
I'm taking a huge media break. So it has allowed me to slowly go back out and ask trusted people to send me something.
Yeah.
And a band that I've enjoyed, I'm terrible with band names too, but I do remember this one that I've been really enjoying. I thought it's neat. It's this Irish band called Lankum.
Okay.
And they are old punk rockers, and then they are doing traditional folk music, but with a very dark undertone.
Nice.
It is refreshing, you know. It was, thank God, you know, that something interesting is happening. And let's see, trying to think. I wish I'm on my phone and I can't look up this band without probably getting off of here. But I've been listening to, let's see, I listened to Fred Eaglesmith the other day. Had a good time.
Okay.
But I've been listening. I wish I could think of the name of this band, but it's a jazz group. But it is so nice. Basically, I had somebody I know make me a really big playlist with a bunch of various artists. And But I would say, if you want something different, maybe something you hadn't heard, check out the Lankum stuff. That was pretty interesting. And I think the song, one of their biggest songs is Go and Dig My Grave. I think that's the name of it.
Okay. That sounds good. Well, we'll look it up and link to it in the show notes so everybody can check them out. That's good stuff. All right. Last question I have for you. And if you haven't started to be asked this already, you're going to be asked this a billion times in the next couple of months. When's album number 3 coming? What are you working on? When are we going to hear new music from S.G. Goodman?
I am working on album number 3. I don't, in any possible world, I don't think there will be an album this next year.
Okay.
It would be nice, but at the same time, I don't really have a problem not putting out an album in an election year.
Yeah.
You know, it's already feels like, wish we could just I could go somewhere for a year and hide out, you know.
Fast forward through the next 12 months, right?
But I did want to put out an album next year and thought it would be good, but I've kind of come up with an idea that I want to spend quite a bit of time on. So I am doing my best to choose, you know, quality over productivity here, which is any music business person would tell you it's not the way to do it.
Well,
they want singles and they want them now.
I'm sure, but I think your core fans are going to appreciate the hell out of that, because we know from watching other artists that when you do that and you make it what you want it, not what the record company wants, it usually turns out to be pretty fucking fantastic. So I'm excited.
Thank you.
Well, I don't want to take up any more of your time. This has been unbelievable. Thank you so much for joining us here on Roots Music Rambler. We talk about you a lot. We listen to you even more, and we can't wait to see you. Francesca and I can't wait to see you in June in Chicago live with Tyler. And I'll probably try to see you multiple times over the course of the next year if I can. So thanks so much for
having me. And I'm sorry I'm a long talker, but I did enjoy myself.
Oh, we love long talkers. We have no time limits on our podcast. We'll talk to you as long as you want to. So, but this has been a thrill. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
S.G. Goodman. How about that? Stick around after the break, folks. We've still got the Pickin' the Grinnin' segment coming up. This is Roots Music Rambler. Welcome back to Roots Music Rambler. How about that? S.G. Goodman on our show.
I still don't believe it.
That was pretty cool. And I wish you could have been there. Obviously, you had to miss for your very good reasons, but hopefully we'll have her back on the show at some point, and I'll just let you do the interview and sit in the corner or something. So,
Deal.
All right. It's time for our Pickin' the Grinnin' segment. That's the part of the show where Frank and I pick the people or tell you who we're picking that are people who are making us grin this week. It might be a song. It might be a new artist. It might be an album. It could just be some random person we saw on the internet who was singing in the shower. But we're going to point you to perhaps new music, maybe that you haven't heard yet, or maybe it's old music that you haven't heard in a while. And we think, hey, yeah, you should go back and listen to Marty Robbins. He's pretty cool. But anyway, so it's time for Pickin' the Grinnin', and I am going to kick it over to Frank this time. Frank, who you been listening to this week?
Okay, so I had this whole answer lined up, but then you mentioned Marty Robbins, and you just now I'm going in a completely different direction. Oh, my goodness. So Marty Robbins was one of my dad's favorites. Mm-hmm. And my dad, if we had to pick not a theme song for my dad, but one that, every time we hear it, we think of him, it would be El Paso.
Yeah.
And I remember going out, my dad lived in Arizona. I remember going out to visit him and being in this old timey saloon. And there was some guy playing guitar and taking requests, and, you had to pay for the request. So I requested El Paso so my dad could hear it. And when he, like, you wrote it on a piece of paper, when he opened it and saw that, he goes, well, that's going to be a few more bucks, because it's a longer song. And I paid for it gladly. So to connect my dad, Marty Robbins, to present day, now I have to bring up Boy Genius again. If you remember on the Grammys, they were wearing white pantsuits with pink carnations. And Lucia was talking about that because I think it's a Phoebe Bridgers song, Pink Carnation. So she saw that as an homage to that song. And when I saw it, all I could think of was White Sport Coat and Pink Carnation, the song by Marty Robbins. So Lucia and I were in the car the other morning talking about this. And so I played that for her and she's like, oh my gosh, she's like, they totally, she made the connection, and she got all excited about it because it's Marty Robbins and her papa, my father, loved Marty Robbins. So there was that whole circle there that, we talked about our worlds colliding and the music intersecting between ourselves and our teenage daughters. And it was another one of those moments. So what I was going to talk about, can I still do that? Do we have time?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So maybe like last year or the year before, I was introduced to a band called Hermanos Gutierrez. Okay. They are brothers, as the name would imply. Oh, wait, you don't habla español. Okay.
I got hermanos. Okay. Because hermanos, the pollo hermanos from the Breaking Bad. There you go.
Right. Okay. So Hermanos Gutierrez. So they're brothers and they're Ecuadorian and Swiss.
Okay.
So love that combo. And when it was introduced to me, when I first heard about Hermanos Gutierrez and their music, which is all instrumental, it was introduced as panty dropping music. So I was all in.
Instrumental panty dropping music?
Yep.
I gotta hear this.
It's like California surf vibe with the Latin influence, and I was in love. And, being Ecuadorian and Swiss, doesn't hurt to look at them. And, the whole Latin thing, Spanish teacher. So, so we got tickets. They're coming to Chicago in April.
Awesome.
Coming up. I bought tickets. I don't care how broke I am. I'm going to see them. And then along those same lines, I saw on Instagram just this past week, I think, our friend and former guest, Sarah Jean Stevens, posted something about a band called La Lome, which reminds me a lot of Hermanos Gutierrez. And I don't know who came first, and I don't really care, but the sound that they create is amazing. And they're also coming to Chicago, but I think their shows might be sold out already. But if you dig that kind of like surf vibe, I am not knowledgeable enough about like guitars and guitar sounds to really describe it professionally or accurately, but just check it out. And that Afro-Cuban vibe going on to in the cumbia, I'm in love.
Okay. Well, we will make sure that there are appropriate links in the show notes so that we can easily get to that stuff. I will grab on both sides of my panties before I start listening so that they don't drop. So my pick this week.
I hope my students don't listen to this episode.
Oh, boy. Those know. It's going to be on the interwebs. So, well, I'll have Lucia tag them all in the post.
Great.
So you can, there you go. So my pick this week, actually, I want to admit a bit of a flaw. So my day job is kind of in the social media marketing world. Like I'm supposed to be plugged into all these channels and platforms, and I am, but I also use them personally. And so I'm old, like I'm in my 50s, right? So I'm not hip to what the kids are doing these days. My point here is I don't see popular memes at the same time that people who are in their 20s and 30s see popular memes. Right. I see them anywhere from 2 months to 2 years later.
Same.
So I'm behind on some of the hip, cool stuff. In fact, there was one guy on TikTok that I posted a link on my Facebook to say, hey, I just found this guy on TikTok and he's hysterical. And it was this Manolo on golf. And he's a Latin American guy who teaches golf, and he's hysterical. He's funny. And every single one of the comments was, yeah, that was like 2 years ago, dude. And I'm like, I think he's funny now. Screw you. Anyway, So I preface that. That's my preface to say that what I'm about to share with you is probably 2 years old, if not more. You may have already heard these folks play and their music. I have discovered them. I haven't discovered them recently. I wanted to bring these guys up on the show 6 months ago, but I just, for one reason or another, they fell down the list because they're not recording artists. They're on TikTok and I think maybe Instagram and YouTube. But if you have not heard the Muyun brothers on TikTok, I am fascinated by these guys. Now, it's a vocal group of 3 Y-I brothers. They're in the Sichuan region of China. And I'm going to play their most popular song is called or translated to Worldly World, I think. It has 62 million views on TikTok. But this isn't the only song they've posted, but it's 3 brothers. One plays a kind of a sort of a traditional classic guitar. And they're, I don't want to describe them inadequately or disrespectfully, but they are in their 20s, but they look to be children. And so I don't know if it's, some sort of diagnosis kind of thing, or if this is just the people of that region are diminutive or whatever. But if you go look them up, they're at the Muyun Brothers on TikTok. It's Muyun Brothers. We'll link to it from the show notes. But this is their most watched video on TikTok. I'll play a little bit of it. And I'm just fascinated by these guys. Here we go. And I mean this at 1,000% respectfully. I can't stop listening to these guys. I think it's fascinating. I don't understand a word they're saying. They do have a translation of their lyrics typically on the screen, and the lyrics, like beautiful peacocks are not perfect. Here we go. I'll read off to you a little bit. Maybe. Oh, the people of the world. Something to share my dreams. I don't know. Anyway, so they have the captions, the translations, but these are 3 brothers in the Yi brothers, Y-I, whatever that means. I don't know what that means. And again, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I'm not making fun. I think these guys are great. I love it. And I can't stop watching or listening to their videos on TikTok. And so I thought, well, they don't have a recording contract or albums or anything, but damn it, I'm going to put them as my Pickin the Grinnin because I can't stop watching them and listening to them. I just think they're fascinating. And it's really true to what we're doing here. This is music from the Sichuan region of China. It's 3 local musicians there, brothers, who are singing together, and they are not who you would typically think is producing music on the internet or anywhere else. And I'm just fascinated by them. So I wanted to share that with everybody. I think they're great. There's definitely some degree of curiosity there because they are diminutive. I don't know if they are little people, the technical dwarfism, or if it's just the people of that region or their family or whatever are diminutive people. So there's a curiosity about how they look and how they sound, and that they are allegedly, 20 years old or more. You can't find a whole lot of information about them on the internet. They've got a little bit of a description of themselves, I think, on their YouTube channel. And they started out by posting videos of they were renovating a barn or a house or wherever they live. They were doing home improvement stuff. And apparently it didn't take off in terms of getting a bunch of followers on the internet. So they started playing music and then they blew up. So the Muyun brothers, there you go.
Okay. So as you were finishing up there, I Googled Muyun brothers. So 3 brothers from the Yi ethnic group. I'm looking at them and they do, to the uninformed, just looking at the picture, they would seem like they are children. But yeah, I'm intrigued now, and yeah. I don't really know what to say. I don't want to sound disrespectful or anything. Okay, if you had just played that audio and didn't preface it, introduce it at all, my initial thought was Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Yep. I'm right there with you. They have a very high pitched sound. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, again, I'm not making fun or anything, but that was my thought. But yeah, and I'm all about the foreign, right, non-American roots music. So I'm going to have a deeper look.
Yeah. Check it out. I find them fascinating. And there's a couple of videos where they have, another person comes in to play guitar and the three of them just sing. They've been doing more videos, I guess, because their, videos started to kind of blow up. And I don't know. I'm very curious. I'd love to know more about them. I'd love to know more about their town, their region. I don't know if they speak English, but if they do, I'd love to have them on the damn show. That'd be amazing. Because I'm really curious. I'm just like, this is really interesting music. It sounds good. I don't quite understand the lyrics, but that's more probably a language and cultural translation thing. But I'm just fascinated by them. I think they're good to listen to. It's something different and kind of out of left field, but I perk every time I see one of their videos float by in my TikTok or whatever. I kind of perk up and just sit and watch. And so I'm getting a kick out of them. So I wanted to share it with everybody. There you go.
As I was Googling it, Google predicts like the predictive text. So I just typed in Muhyun and like all of these search options came up, and Muhyun Brothers age, Muhyun Brothers condition. And it looks as if on YouTube, there's more information about that. If you look on YouTube, maybe there are some answers there.
There we go. So you got some new stuff to go dig into if you haven't already. And I apologize if my age means I'm way behind the times on the Muhyun Brothers. I hope you haven't heard them yet. But if you have, then go enjoy them again. So there you go. Roots Music Rambler is a production of Falls and Partners, copyright 2024. Our theme music is by Sheepskin and Beeswax by Gentacorum. Join us online at rootsmusicrambler.com and make sure you mash that subscribe or follow button so you remember to join us for the next Hoe-Down and Throwdown. She's Frank.
He's Falls.
And whatever you do, kids, ramble on.